General Zix Vorax stood at the viewing portal of the Imperial vessel, his aged scales shifting to a deep blue as he contemplated the small blue planet on the display. Earth. Such an unassuming name for a world that caused him such concern. He had studied over 5,000 species during his 3 centuries of service to the galactic imperial hegemony, but none had troubled his dreams like these humans. "You requested this meeting, General," High Admiral Krelton said from behind him. The Admiral's voice carried the distinctive clicking undertones of impatience. "The Council has other matters to attend to today." Zix Vorax turned slowly, his joints aching from years of military campaigns. The Grand Council chamber of the vessel stretched before him, 12 seats arranged in a perfect circle with the holographic display of Earth floating at the center. The most powerful beings in the galaxy watched him with expressions ranging from boredom to mild curiosity. "I come before this council to formally object to the planned incorporation of planet designation Terra 3, locally known as Earth," Zix Vorax said, his voice steady despite the weight of his words. A ripple of surprise moved through the council members. Formal objections to conquest were rare. "On what grounds?" asked Council Member Drath, her tendrils twisting with interest. "Unexpected. Defensive capabilities that our standard protocols are not designed to counter," Zix Vorax replied. He tapped a command into his wrist device, and the hologram of Earth was replaced by footage from a reconnaissance drone. The footage showed a wooded area on Earth. A human female walked with a small human child. The council watched as a large, predatory animal, what humans called a mountain lion, emerged from the trees and lunged toward the child. What happened next caused several council members to lean forward in their seats. The human female, identified in their records as Samantha Miller, did not flee as most species would. Instead, she placed herself between the predator and the child. When the animal attacked, she fought with such speed and strength that the recording had to be slowed down for proper analysis. "Our biological scans indicate this female has no special training, no enhanced abilities, and no natural defensive adaptations," Zix Vorax explained. "She is, by all measures, an ordinary specimen of her species. Yet, she defeated a predator, twice her mass," Council Member Drath observed. "This is merely one example," Zix Vorax continued. He showed more footage. Human females lifting impossible weights when their offspring were trapped, making unlikely escapes from natural disasters, even facing armed attackers with nothing but improvised weapons. "What we are witnessing is a phenomenon I call the maternal response cascade," the general explained. "When human females perceive a threat to their young, their biochemistry changes dramatically. Strength increases, pain tolerance multiplies, cognitive processing accelerates. It appears to be an evolutionary adaptation unique to their species." High Admiral Krelton waved a dismissive hand. "Every species protects its young, General. This is hardly reason to abort a standard incorporation." "You misunderstand, Admiral," Zix Vorax said. "This is not simple protective behavior. In most species, the strongest males serve as defenders. In humans, while their males are physically stronger on average, their females display this remarkable adaptive response that can temporarily exceed normal limitations. More importantly, they appear capable of extending this protective instinct beyond their biological offspring to include all members of their species." He changed the display again, showing a human conflict zone. A female human medical worker shielded injured strangers with her body during an attack, displaying the same biochemical markers as the mother protecting her child. "Our standard conquest protocol involves taking population samples for study and compliance testing," Zix Vorax continued. "This will inevitably include their young. Based on my analysis, this will trigger a planet-wide maternal response cascade. We are not prepared for the consequences." High Admiral Krelton's scales flushed an angry red. "You suggest these primitive mammals could pose a threat to the Imperial fleet? They haven't even achieved reliable interplanetary travel. I suggest that our usual methods will unite them in ways we haven't seen in other species," Zix Vorax replied calmly. "They lack our technology, yes, but they possess a ferocity and adaptability that our models cannot properly account for." "What do you propose instead?" asked Council Member Drath. Either bypass this world entirely, Zix said, or develop a specialized diplomatic approach that avoids triggering their defensive responses. Standard incorporation methods will fail. The council chamber fell silent as the members considered his words. Zix had earned his reputation over centuries of successful campaigns. His risk assessments were rarely questioned. But High Admiral Krelton had been waiting for the Earth assignment for years. The mineral wealth of the planet had featured prominently in his planned legacy. General, the Admiral said, his voice taking on the formal tones used when pulling rank. Your concerns are noted. However, your recent campaigns have been marked by an excess of caution. Perhaps it is time to consider whether 3 centuries of service have left you hesitant. The insult hung in the air. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. My age has given me wisdom, Admiral, Zix responded. Something you appear to lack. Enough, Council Member Drath interrupted. We will put this to a vote. All in favor of proceeding with standard incorporation protocols for Earth? 9 members raised their hands. Only 3, including Drath herself, kept them lowered. The Council has decided, Drath said, regret evident in her voice. Incorporation will proceed as scheduled. The Vanguard fleet will depart at next rotation. Zix bowed stiffly. I formally request that my objection be recorded in the permanent archives. So noted, Drath replied. As the council members filed out, Admiral Krelton approached Zix with a smug expression. You worry too much, old one. These humans will kneel like all the others before them. Pride has been the downfall of greater empires than ours, Zix replied quietly. I fear you have made a grave miscalculation. The Admiral laughed and walked away, leaving the General alone with the hologram of Earth spinning slowly before him. In his quarters later that evening, Zix studied the data again. The humans called them mama bears in some regions, females, who would fight with unnatural strength to protect their young. He had seen too many worlds, too many species, to dismiss his instincts now. He opened a secure channel to his protege, Commander Ixiel, on the reserve fleet. The Council has rejected my warning, he said without preamble. They will proceed with standard protocol. Hexel's image flickered with concern. What would you have me do, General? Prepare the reserve fleet for emergency response, Zix ordered, and begin researching diplomatic protocols that might be implemented when, not if, the initial invasion fails. You believe it will come to that? Ixiel asked. I have served this empire faithfully for 3 centuries, Zix replied, and for the first time I find myself hoping for its defeat. These humans deserve better than what we are about to do to them. As he ended the transmission, Zix looked once more at the image of Earth on his display. So small, so blue, so seemingly insignificant in the vastness of the galaxy. And yet he couldn't shake the feeling that this tiny world was about to change everything. Lieutenant Olivia Daniels peered through her binoculars at the Montana sky. Something was wrong. The stars didn't look right, almost as if they were being blocked by large objects. She had spent enough nights at this remote outpost to know the night sky by heart. Got anything on the sensors, Alan? She asked, not taking her eyes off the strange distortion. Alan Rodriguez, the station's technical specialist, frowned at his monitors. Nothing official, but there's some weird interference patterns I can't explain. Like something's up there but doesn't want to be seen. The Montana Research Outpost, disguised as a weather monitoring station, was one of 12 secret facilities around the globe designed to watch for exactly this kind of anomaly. Olivia had commanded this station for 3 years, always believing their mission was mostly precautionary. Now she wasn't so sure. Run a full spectrum analysis and compare it to last week's readings, she ordered. And let's keep this quiet until we know more. No need to alarm higher-ups with what might just be atmospheric distortion. As Alan worked, Olivia's phone buzzed. A text from her sister in Chicago. Weird lights in the sky here. News says military. Exercise, true? Olivia felt a chill. Chicago was over 1,000 miles away. If something was happening in both locations simultaneously, this was no normal phenomenon. On the Imperial Vanguard ship, Sub-Commander Drex reviewed the deployment map with satisfaction. The stealth fields were working perfectly. 12 Harvester vessels were now in position above major Earth population centers, ready to begin collection of human specimens. "Begin Phase 1, he ordered. "Remember, standard procedure. We want a diverse sampling with emphasis on the young. They adapt more easily to compliance training." The officer at the communications station nodded. "Harvester teams report ready. Sub-Commander." Drex settled back in his command chair. This would be a routine incorporation despite the old general's wild warnings. His first solo command would proceed flawlessly, earning him the promotion he had long desired. "Commence specimen collection," he ordered. In Chicago, Karen Blackwell herded her students toward the yellow school bus. The field trip to the Natural History Museum had gone well, despite Jimmy Peterson's attempt to climb into the dinosaur exhibit. "Everyone stay together," she called out. "Buddy system, remember? No one gets on the bus without their partner." That's when she first noticed the strange shimmering in the air above the museum parking lot. It reminded her of heat waves rising from hot pavement, except it was a cool spring day. The shimmering grew more pronounced, expanding into a large circular distortion. "Ms. Blackwell, what's that?" asked Lily, pointing upward. Before Karen could answer, a massive object materialized through the distortion. The vessel, for it could be nothing else, was unlike any aircraft she had ever seen. Metallic and smooth, it hovered silently about 50 feet above them. "Everyone on the bus now!" Karen shouted, her teacher's instincts taking over. "Quickly!" But it was too late. A bright blue light shot down from the vessel, forming a wide cylinder around half the children still in the parking lot. Karen watched in horror as her students began rising slowly into the air, their faces frozen in terror. Without hesitation, she ran forward and leaped into the blue light. Whatever was taking her students would have to take her too. As she entered the beam, Karen felt a strange tingling sensation across her skin. Her body began to float upward alongside the children. She managed to grab hold of two of them, Jimmy and Lily, pulling them close as they ascended toward the opening that had appeared in the bottom of the craft. Inside the alien vessel, two guards in sleek armor watched the humans rising through the collection beam with professional disinterest. They had performed this procedure on dozens of worlds. "Unusual," noted the first guard. "An adult entered the beam voluntarily. Probably a protective response," said the second. "Many species display it. She'll be subdued once they're processed." What happened next would later be described in the official report as anomalous and unprecedented. As Karen Blackwell entered the vessel, something changed in her expression. The fear vanished, replaced by a focused intensity that the guards had never seen in a newly captured specimen. When the first guard approached with a compliance rod, a device designed to render subjects docile, Karen moved with impossible speed. She dodged the rod and struck the guard with enough force to send him staggering backward. The second guard raised his weapon, but Karen had already closed the distance between them. She wrenched the weapon from his hands and used it to strike him unconscious. The security systems reacted instantly, filling the chamber with a paralyzing gas that should have rendered all organic life forms immobile within seconds. Karen held her breath and used the stolen weapon to smash the control panel. The gas stopped, but alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "It's okay," she told the terrified children. "Stay together. We're going to be fine." Even as she spoke, the words additional guards were rushing toward the collection chamber. Karen positioned herself between them and the children, the stolen weapon held ready. At the Montana outpost, the instruments were going crazy. Reports were flooding in from across the globe of massive objects appearing over major cities. Livestream videos showed people being lifted into alien vessels by blue light. "It's happening in 12 locations simultaneously," Alan reported, his voice tight with stress. "Chicago, New York, London, Beijing, Sydney." Olivia's phone rang. It was her sister again. This time she was sobbing. "They took them, Liv," she cried. "They took my kids from their school. Some kind of alien ship just grabbed them and other children right off the playground." Olivia felt something shift inside her. A strange calm descended, replacing the shock and fear. Her training, her rational mind, everything focused into a single point of determination. "I'll find them," she promised her sister. "I'll get them back." She turned to her team, who were watching her with wide eyes. "This is what we've prepared. For begin Protocol Omega. We need to establish contact with the other stations immediately." As her team scrambled to action, Olivia accessed the station's secure vault. Inside were prototype weapons based on theoretical alien technology, devices the public had no idea existed. She began distributing them methodically. "Alan, I need you to track the energy signatures of those ships. Find out where they're going, when they leave our atmosphere." On the command ship, Sub-Commander Drex received the first reports with disbelief. "What do you mean, a breach? That's impossible. No pre-space flight species has ever breached Harvester security." The communications officer looked distinctly uncomfortable. "The report is confirmed, sir. A human female overpowered 2 guards and disabled the collection chamber controls on Chicago Harvester 3. "Impossible," Drex repeated. "They must have made an error in their report. No species at this development stage could possibly—" "Sir," interrupted the science officer, "I'm detecting unusual readings from the captured specimens, particularly the females. Their biochemistry is showing patterns that don't match our baseline scans." Drex waved a dismissive hand. "Fear response. It's expected." "This is different, sir," the science officer insisted. "It's as if their bodies are producing entirely new compounds, and the security breach isn't isolated. We're getting similar reports from 3 other harvesters now." For the first time, Sub-Commander Drex felt a flicker of unease. What if the old general had been right after all? "Increase security on all vessels," he ordered, "and begin processing the specimens immediately. I want them compliant before we return to the fleet." He could not fail in his first command. Whatever anomalies these humans presented, the might of the galactic imperial hegemony would prevail. It always had. Dr. Lisa Wright was in the middle of explaining quantum field theory to her undergraduate class when the world changed forever. The university's emergency alert system blared through the speakers, and students' phones buzzed simultaneously with urgent messages. "This is not a drill," said the mechanical voice over the PA system. "Unknown aircraft have appeared over major cities worldwide. Remain indoors and away from windows." Lisa rushed to the classroom window despite the warning. In the distance, over downtown, she could see it, a massive metallic disc hovering silently above the city skyline. As she watched, smaller craft detached from the larger vessel and descended toward the ground. "Class dismissed," she said quietly. "Go to the basement shelter now." As her students hurried out, Lisa called her husband Jack. No answer. Jack worked downtown, right in the area where those smaller craft were heading. She tried again. Still. Nothing. 3 hours later, Lisa's lecture hall had transformed into an impromptu command center. The university's basement was filled with frightened students and staff, but Lisa had rallied a group of graduate students and faculty members to gather information and analyze what was happening. "The patterns are clear," she explained, pointing to the data they'd collected from social media and news reports before communications began failing. "They're taking people, mostly children but also adults who resist." Her colleague from the engineering department nodded grimly. "And they're targeting the same types of locations in each city, schools, parks, anywhere with concentrations of children." Lisa felt a cold certainty settling in her chest. Jack had texted her just once about an hour after the ships appeared. "They're taking kids from the park. I'm going to help." Then nothing. She knew he must have been taken too. "We need to understand their technology," Lisa said, her voice steady despite her fear. "If we can understand it, we can fight it." On the Imperial command ship, Junior Science Officer Plex was growing increasingly concerned as he reviewed the data from the Harvester vessels. "Sub-Commander," he said hesitantly, "I'm detecting unusual patterns in the human specimens, particularly the females." Sub-Commander Drex barely glanced up from the deployment maps. "Explain." "Their neurochemistry is changing in ways our models didn't predict. The females who have had offspring show the most dramatic changes, but even those without children are displaying similar transformations. Plex highlighted a section of data on his screen. Their brain activity, hormone levels, and even muscle tissue are altering. It's as if their bodies are adapting to our presence in real time. That's not possible, Drex said dismissively. No species can self-modify at that rate. The evidence suggests otherwise, Plex insisted. More concerning is that our standard compliance fields are proving less effective than anticipated. The effect seems to diminish with repeated exposure. Drex finally looked up, irritation clear in his expression. Are you suggesting these primitives are becoming resistant to our technology? I'm suggesting we should proceed with caution, Plex replied, and perhaps inform High Command of these anomalies. Drex's scales darkened with anger. This is my operation, and it will proceed as planned. Increase the strength of the compliance fields if necessary. In the detention area of Harvester 3, Karen Blackwell remained conscious despite being subjected to compliance fields that should have rendered her docile. The aliens had separated her from the children, placing her in a cell with other adult humans who had been captured while trying to protect the young. Karen looked around at her fellow prisoners. Most were slumped against the walls, their eyes vacant under the influence of the alien technology, but a few, mostly women, seemed to be fighting the effect. Across from her, a woman in a police uniform struggled to sit upright. I'm Susan, she said, her words slurred but determined. Denver police was helping evacuate a daycare when they took me. Karen, middle school teacher from Chicago. Another woman joined their whispered conversation. Diane, nurse. They took my son's entire soccer team. One by one, the aware women introduced themselves. Different cities, different backgrounds, but united by a common purpose. They had all been taken while trying to protect children. Karen noticed something strange. The more they talked, the clearer their minds seemed to become, as if connection with each other somehow counteracted the alien technology. Something's happening to us, Karen whispered. I can feel it. I'm stronger than I should be, more focused. The others nodded in agreement. We need to coordinate, said Susan, the police officer. Find weaknesses in their security. These aliens think we're subdued, but they're wrong. At the Montana outpost, Lieutenant Olivia Daniels had established contact with similar facilities around the world. The network of supposedly secret monitoring stations had become humanity's impromptu resistance headquarters. What's our status? Olivia asked as she entered the communications room. Alan looked up from his console. We've confirmed contact with 8 other stations. 3 aren't responding but may just be maintaining radio silence. We're picking up unusual energy signatures from the alien vessels. Consistent patterns that suggest they use some kind of quantum field technology. Olivia nodded. Any luck tracking where they're taking the abductees? We believe they're being held on larger ships in orbit, said Nicole Porter, a former Olympic athlete who had been visiting her brother at the station when the invasion began. She had quickly become an essential part of their team, her analytical mind matching her physical capabilities. The smaller craft make regular trips between Earth and these orbital platforms. We need to get someone on one of those ships, Olivia said. Find out exactly what we're dealing with. The door opened, and Patricia Martinez, a high school chemistry teacher from the nearby town, entered carrying a stack of papers. She had arrived at the outpost seeking help when the alien ships appeared and had stayed to lend her expertise. I've been analyzing the composition of the material they dropped during the Chicago incident, Patricia said, spreading her notes on the table. It's unlike anything I've seen before, but I think I've figured out how their cloaking technology works. It bends light around their ships by manipulating the electromagnetic field. Can we disrupt it? Olivia asked. Patricia smiled for the first time since arriving. I think so. If we can reverse the polarity of their field generators, we might be able to not only make their ships visible, but temporarily disable their systems. That could be our way in, Nicole said. Olivia looked at the assembled team, a technical specialist, an athlete, a chemistry teacher, and herself, a military officer who had never seen actual combat. Not exactly the team she would have chosen to fight an alien invasion, but they were what Earth had right now. Dr. Wright at Northeastern University has been working on theoretical applications of quantum field manipulation, Alan added. Her work might help us understand how to counter their technology. Establish contact with her, Olivia ordered, and prepare a mission plan. We're going to capture one of their ships. In orbit around Earth, General Zix Vorax received an encrypted message from his protege, Commander Ixil. The incorporation of Earth is proceeding with complications, Ixil reported. Multiple security breaches have been reported on harvester vessels. Sub-Commander Drex has increased the strength of compliance, fields beyond recommended levels, and is accelerating the collection phase. And the humans? Zix Vorax asked. Exactly as you predicted, General. The females are displaying remarkable adaptability. Science Officer Plex reports that they appear to be developing resistance to our technology at an unprecedented rate. Zix Vorax closed his eyes briefly. Prepare the diplomatic package I developed. When, not if, Drex requests reinforcements, we must be ready to offer an alternative approach. Sir, Ixil hesitated. High Command is unlikely to authorize a diplomatic solution at this stage. Then we must be prepared to act without authorization, Zix Vorax replied. What is happening on Earth is not incorporation. It is an atrocity, and I will not allow it to continue. 3 weeks had passed since the first alien ships appeared in Earth's skies. What had begun as a routine incorporation for the galactic imperial hegemony had transformed into something unprecedented in the Empire's long history. A genuine struggle. Sub-Commander Drex paced the command deck of his vessel, his scales shifting between shades of anxious blue and angry red. The status reports from the surface made no sense. Harvester ships were disappearing. Ground teams were being ambushed by primitives who should have been terrified into submission. Most alarming of all, the detention centers on the orbital platforms were experiencing security breaches that should have been impossible. Explain this, he demanded, pointing at the latest report. How did humans disable the security grid on Platform 7? They don't even understand our technology. Junior Science. Officer Plex cleared his throat nervously. Sir, I believe they are learning. The humans, particularly the females, are demonstrating remarkable adaptive capabilities. They observe, analyze, and implement countermeasures at a rate we've never documented in any species. That's absurd, Drex snapped. They were using combustion engines mere decades ago. Nevertheless, Plex continued, the evidence is clear. The female who escaped from Harvester 3, the one called Karen Blackwell, has now liberated detention blocks on 3 separate platforms. She somehow figured out how to manipulate our security protocols. Drex stared at the display showing the human female. There was nothing remarkable about her. Middle-aged by their standards, no notable physical characteristics, no special training according to their records. She had been a teacher of young humans. Yet somehow she had become the Empire's most wanted fugitive. And what of the other resistance cells? He asked. Equally concerning, Plex replied. The group led by the human female Olivia Daniels has captured 2 of our scout vessels intact. The one called Lisa Wright has somehow reverse-engineered aspects of our shield technology. And most troubling, they appear to be coordinating globally, despite our communications blackout. Drex felt a cold fear grip his hearts. His first command was turning into a disaster. High Command would hold him personally responsible for these failures. He needed a decisive victory, something to show that the situation was still under control. Prepare the planet cracker, he ordered. Plex's eyes widened in shock. Sir, those weapons are only authorized for uninhabited mining worlds. The directive explicitly forbids their use on populated planets. I am making an exception, Drex hissed. We will target their largest military installation as a demonstration. Once they see what we are capable of, these humans will surrender. Sir, I must formally object to this course of action, Plex said, standing straighter. It violates imperial law and the principles of incorporation. Drex's scales turned black with rage. Your objection is noted. Now carry out my orders or face charges of insubordination. As Plex reluctantly moved to comply, a communication officer called out, Sir, we have an incoming transmission from the reserve fleet. General Zix Vorax requests to speak with you. Drex felt a mixture of relief and dread. The old general was widely respected, and his arrival might help salvage this situation, but it would also mean admitting that his warnings had been correct. Put him through, Drex ordered. The holographic image of General Zix Vorax appeared on the command deck. His ancient scales were a calm shade of green, but his eyes were sharp with concern. "Sub-Commander," he said, "I am approaching Earth with the reserve fleet. I understand you have encountered difficulties." Drex fought to keep his scales from revealing his embarrassment. "Minor setbacks, General, nothing I cannot handle." "Indeed," Zix Vorax replied. "That is not what my sources indicate. The humans are displaying exactly the defensive response I predicted. The maternal cascade has begun." Before Drex could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "Sir," called the security officer, "we have a breach in the main hangar. Human intruders." In a research lab on the outskirts of Boston, Dr. Lisa Wright stared at the alien device her team had salvaged from a crashed scout ship. For 3 weeks she had been studying it, trying to understand the principles behind its operation. Her husband was still missing, probably held on one of the orbital platforms. Every moment she spent working brought her closer to finding him. "I think I've got it," she said to her assembled team. "Their technology operates on quantum entanglement principles, similar to what I was researching before they arrived. They use entangled particles to create instantaneous communication and to power their weapons." "Can we disrupt it?" asked another scientist. Lisa nodded. "Better. We can reverse it. If we create a cascading quantum inversion, we could potentially disable all their technology simultaneously." She held up a small device she had constructed. This prototype should work on a small scale, but to affect their entire fleet, we would need to connect it directly to their command network. "How do we do that?" someone asked. "We don't," Lisa replied, "but I've been in contact with Lieutenant Daniels in Montana. Her team has captured alien vessels, and Karen Blackwell is already aboard their command platform." On that very platform, Karen Blackwell moved silently through the ventilation systems. After 3 weeks in captivity, her body had changed. She was stronger, faster, more resilient. The other captured women had experienced similar transformations. Whatever the aliens had done to them had triggered something unexpected. Karen reached a junction and paused, checking the crude map she had memorized. 3 levels down was the central detention area where the children were being held. 2 levels up was the command center. She needed to reach both, but she couldn't be in 2 places at once. A soft tapping sound from a nearby vent caught her attention. She tensed, ready to fight, but relaxed when she saw it was Susan, the police officer from Denver. "Diane and the others are in position," Susan whispered. "The mothers are ready to move on the detention level. 200 of us coordinated across all detention blocks." Karen nodded. "I'll head for the command center then. If Dr. Wright's device works, we can shut down their whole system." Susan gripped her arm. "Be careful. We've noticed the alien in charge, the one with the black scales, is becoming more erratic. The others seem afraid of him." At the Montana outpost, Lieutenant Olivia Daniels reviewed the final mission preparations. Her team had spent weeks learning to operate the captured alien vessels. Now they were ready to make their move. "The plan is simple," she told the assembled team. "Nicole will pilot our captured ship to the command platform using their own identification codes. Once aboard, we'll rendezvous with Karen's team. Patricia will use her chemical compound to neutralize any resistance. I'll take Dr. Wright's device to the command center and connect it to their network." "What about the children?" asked Alan. "Susan and the other mothers will free them during the confusion," Olivia replied. "We've coordinated simultaneous actions across all platforms." Nicole Porter checked her equipment one last time. The former athlete had surprised everyone with her ability to master alien technology. "The most dangerous part is getting past their security scans. If they detect us too early, they'll lock down the whole platform. That's why timing is everything," Olivia said. "Every resistance cell on Earth is launching simultaneous attacks on ground targets. They won't know which threat to respond to. First, Patricia Martinez handed out small vials of blue liquid. This compound will neutralize their paralyzing gas. It should give you about 10 minutes of immunity. Don't waste time once you've used it. As they moved toward the captured ship, Alan called out, "Lieutenant, urgent transmission from Dr. Wright." Olivia rushed back to the communications console. Lisa's face appeared on the screen, her expression grave. "They're preparing to use a planet cracker weapon," she said without preamble. "Our sensors detected the energy buildup. It's powerful enough to destroy an entire continent." Olivia felt her blood run cold. "How long do we have?" "Hours at most," Lisa replied. "Whatever we're going to do, it has to happen now." Olivia looked at her team, then back at the screen. "Launch the operation, all cells, all locations. This ends today." General Zix Vorax knew he was committing treason the moment his shuttle left the reserve fleet without authorization. High Command had expressly forbidden his interference in Subcommander Drex's operation. But after 3 centuries of loyal service to the Empire, the general had finally found a line he would not cross. "Sir, we're approaching the command platform," his pilot reported. "They're asking for our clearance codes." "Send them," Zix Vorax replied, "and prepare for emergency protocols. I suspect we won't be welcomed warmly." As the shuttle docked with the massive orbital platform, Zix Vorax reviewed what he knew. The human resistance had grown stronger each day instead of weakening. Their females, especially those with maternal instincts activated, were displaying unprecedented adaptation to Imperial technology, and now, according to his sources, Drex was preparing to deploy a planet cracker weapon, something that would doom not just this world but the Empire's honor as well. The shuttle door opened, revealing a squad of Imperial guards with weapons drawn. "General Zix Vorax," announced the squad leader. "By order of Subcommander Drex, you are under arrest for interference in an authorized incorporation operation." Zix Vorax nodded calmly. "I submit to the Empire's authority. Take me to Drex." As they marched through the corridors, the general noticed subtle signs of chaos, damage to control panels, guards posted at unusual intervals, nervous tension in the crew they passed. This was not the orderly operation of an Imperial conquest. This was a command on the verge of collapse. On Earth, Nicole Porter piloted the captured alien vessel toward the command platform with a steady hand. Inside, Lieutenant Olivia Daniels and her team checked their equipment one final time. "Remember," Olivia said, "our priority is placing Dr. Wright's device at the central command node. Everything else is secondary." Patricia Martinez distributed the last of her chemical compounds. "This batch is stronger than the previous formula. It should give us 15 minutes of immunity to their weapons, but the side effects might be more severe." Alan Rodriguez, monitoring communications from the hideout in Montana, spoke through their captured alien communicators. "All resistance cells are in position. Attacks on ground targets begin in 3 minutes. Dr. Wright's team is standing by to activate the device once it's connected." Olivia thought of her sister's children, somewhere in the labyrinth of detention blocks above them. "We get one shot at this. Make it count." The stolen ship approached the orbital platform's docking bay, transmitting the authorization codes they had carefully decrypted over the past weeks. For a moment, Olivia held her breath, wondering if their deception would be discovered. "Docking authorized," came the reply from the platform. "Proceed to Bay 12 for inspection." Nicole guided the ship toward the designated bay but veered at the last second, heading instead for a maintenance dock they had identified as having minimal security. "They've noticed," Nicole called as alarms began blaring. "Hold on." The ship lurched as Nicole executed a maneuver that the Imperial pilots would have thought impossible for humans to perform. They crashed into the maintenance dock, the impact sending them all tumbling. "Move!" Olivia ordered as the ship's door blew open. 15 minutes until they locked down the entire platform. In the central command center, Subcommander Drex watched with growing alarm as security alerts flashed across multiple screens. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Simultaneous attacks on all ground installations," reported a frantic officer. "And we have unauthorized boarding on level 7. It's the humans, sir." "Impossible," Drex hissed. But the evidence was undeniable. Somehow these primitives had coordinated a massive counterattack. The doors to the command center slid open, and guards escorted General Zix Vorax inside. The old general's expression remained neutral as he surveyed the chaos on the displays. "You," Drex snarled. "This is your doing." "I have done nothing," Zix Vorax replied calmly. "This is precisely what I warned would happen. The humans are defending themselves with resourcefulness we failed to anticipate. The planet cracker will end," this Drex said. "Once they see what we are capable of." "They already know what we are capable of," Zix Vorax interrupted. "And they are not afraid. That is what you fail to understand." Karen Blackwell moved swiftly through the ventilation shaft above the command center, listening to the exchange between the two aliens. The one called Zix Vorax seemed different from the others, almost sympathetic to humans. The other, clearly in charge, was becoming increasingly unstable. She checked the small device Dr. Wright had smuggled to her through the resistance network. A simple thing, really. A quantum inverter, Lisa had called it. All Karen needed to do was connect it to the main command console, and it would disrupt all Imperial technology simultaneously. Below her, the argument continued. "The planetary defense cannon is ready, sir," reported an officer. "Target their largest military installation," Drex ordered. "Once it is destroyed, the humans will understand resistance is futile." "I formally object to this action," Zix Vorax stated. "It violates Imperial law on multiple counts." "Your objection is noted and ignored," Drex replied. "Fire when ready." Karen knew it was time to act. She removed the ventilation cover and dropped silently into the command center, the quantum inverter clutched tightly in her hand. At the same moment, alarms blared again. "Security breach on detention level 3, called an officer. "The human females are freeing the specimens." Drex spun around, his scales black with rage, and found himself face to face with Karen Blackwell. "You," he gasped. Karen didn't waste time responding. She dodged his grab and leaped toward the central console, slamming the quantum inverter against its surface. The device adhered instantly, lights blinking as it established connection. "Stop her," Drex screamed, but it was too late. The quantum inverter pulsed once, twice, and then emitted a wave of energy that spread throughout the command center. Every screen flickered and went dark. The lights dimmed momentarily before emergency systems activated. On the detention level, Olivia Daniels met up with Susan and the other freed women. They had already begun evacuating the children when the lights failed. "Karen did it," Olivia said, checking her communicator. "Dr. Wright confirms the quantum cascade is spreading through their entire network. Every piece of their technology, linked to the command platform, is shutting down." Susan nodded grimly. "We have most of the children, but we need to move quickly. The aliens will regroup." "The captured ships are still operational," Olivia reported. "Nicole has them ready for evacuation." In the command center, Drex was in a state of panic as system after system failed around him. "What have you done?" he screamed at Karen. "Ended your invasion," she replied simply. General Zix Vorax, watching, the human female with newfound respect, stepped forward. "The incorporation has failed, Subcommander. It is time to acknowledge defeat." "Never." Drex drew his weapon, but it sparked uselessly in his hand, disabled by the quantum cascade. Zix Vorax turned to Karen. "I wish to speak with your leaders. There is another way this can end, one without further bloodshed." Karen studied the alien general for a moment before nodding. "We're listening." 1 week later, Dr. Lisa Wright stood beside Lieutenant Olivia Daniels as they faced the delegation from the Galactic Imperial Hegemony. General Zix Vorax led the alien representatives. "The High Council has accepted my report," the general announced. "The incorporation of Earth has been officially abandoned. Furthermore, your world is being granted protected status, something never before offered to any species." "And the children?" Olivia asked, thinking of her sister's kids who had been safely returned, though forever changed by their experience. "All human captives have been released," Zix Vorax assured her. "And we offer reparations for the damage caused." Lisa stepped forward. "This isn't just about Earth anymore. We've learned what your empire does to other worlds, the incorporations, as you call them. Six-Vorax nodded solemnly. Yes, and many within the empire have begun questioning these practices. Your resistance has sparked something unexpected throughout our territories. Karen Blackwell, who had become something of a legend among both humans and aliens, joined them. What happens now? That, said Six-Vorax, is for us to determine together. The old ways of the empire are ending. Perhaps it is time for something new to begin. As the sun set over the meeting place, human females, mothers, teachers, scientists, soldiers, stood face to face with representatives of the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And for the first time in the empire's long history, they came not as conquerors, but as equals seeking a better path forward. The general had warned them never to attack Earth's females. Now the entire galaxy would remember why.